man, this thing used to work great. Now it's bugging. That messed up my whole thing. I was talking about at first how this thing never lost grip. Hey, I'm gonna try to get into some entertainment stuff. I might have to stop for a second. Yes, I had some entertainment thoughts. I know yesterday was 24th anniversary on the killing of the killing of B.I.G. I heard a very interesting interview between DJ Clark Kent and Talib Kweli on Kweli's or Talib's People's Party podcast. He had a comparison between Jay-Z and Notorious Big. I don't know if I really agree with it or not. And then what's going on with Snowfall, Coming to America, the sequel, and then an important movie that I hope people catch was the United States versus Billie Holiday by director Lee Daniels. I think it's a pretty important movie that needs to be checked out. I'm gonna try to reattach this thing so I can have my hands free, both of them. So give me a second. Let's see if that stays this time. That's pretty embarrassing. If it falls again, I think I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna shut down and get on off of here. Yeah. The whole B.I.G. thing. On this podcast, I was listening to the People's Party with Talib Kweli, his host. I forget her name, Jasmine Lee, I think. And DJ Clark Kent was on there. Clark Kent produced, among many songs, he produced Brooklyn's Finest with B.I.G. and Jay-Z. And he's done some other songs he's produced throughout the years. I respected the interview and DJ Clark Kent's his knowledge about his business as a DJ, working clubs and being a DJ on different tours and whatnot. I can't question the man. But he was at the beginning of when Jay-Z came onto the scene. He boldly told people that Jay-Z was going to be the best rapper ever. And then, like I told you, he produced a song that the only song, it was two songs. It was one on Life After Death, but a song with featuring two of the greatest dudes to ever do it out of New York City, and both of them out of Brooklyn. But what he said was, he said that Jay-Z was the better MC and that Big was the better rapper, I think was how he said it. And I don't know, man. And he went on to say that Jay-Z was just better at rap music. And also heard another, a lot of people put their opinion out there yesterday, who's the greatest of all time, so on and so forth. I think the one thing that's kind of sad that I can't not take into consideration when I look at Notorious B.I.G. was the growth in him as an artist from Ready to Die to the double album Life After Death was such a huge improvement in an artist. I don't know if I've really seen that type of jump between debut album and sophomore album. The other thing that I think is kind of, is hard to rate for B.I.G. is the fact that you can credit Jay-Z for how he's been able to mature, evolve, and get, I guess it's just not gonna stay today. you can credit Jay-Z for how he was able to do all of these different, go into these different periods of his life and change up his subject matter, so on and so forth. Everything that we've seen over the last 20 plus years, and that's cool. But we didn't get to see, who B.I.G might have, who he might have done collaboration albums with, what new MCs he might have brought into the game and groomed. We don't know, what he would have done, where he would have went musically, his sound and whatnot. But I think one thing, the last thing, and I'll get on to this Coming to America sequel, the one thing that that stood out for B.I.G, and why I think a lot of us rock with Big, is the fact that he often kept it very MC-ish, or I don't want to say battle rapper, but he still kept it very hip-hop and not just on all the straightforward Big Willie, Boss, all the stuff that Jay-Z does, rapping about money, dope, all that stuff. Big would actually just rhyme would just rhyme. And that's evidenced by the fact that he had Method Man on his first album. That was the only feature on that album, was Method Man. And it was like, yeah, I do all of this stuff to make records that sell and to do the club joints and all of that. But in my heart of hearts, I'm just a dude. I'm just a dude that can really, really rhyme, really nice. And I think Jay-Z, that wasn't his game. That wasn't his bag. So, and I'm talking about joints like Unbelievable. There's another one out there. Like I said, the joint with Method Man. It was just a couple of. It was like at least a song or two on the albums that was meant for those of us that are just into lyrics, punchlines, metaphors, and all the technical stuff about rappers. And he could storytell. He spent a lot of time storytelling. We didn't always get a lot of that from Jay-Z. But anyway, moving on to this Coming to America sequel. I've seen this movie looked at a couple of different ways. I saw some about maybe 8 or 9 different review videos that I watched. It's no mystery. The movie was terrible. No other way to put it. It wasn't that great. I see some people defend it with, well, if you look at it as a standalone movie, if you don't compare it to the first one, it's not that bad. Well, if we do that, we have to take into consideration that many of us already saw all of the jokes and all of the big moments from the first movie, and you would know that they just recycled a lot of that stuff, and it didn't really hit the same the way that they did it. But it was one of those projects, at the end of the day, who really cares? They did it. I don't know if it really hurts Eddie Murphy's legacy. A lot of people that we haven't seen work in 30 years, they got to work. A lot of people who were obvious fans of the movie, the first one, and wanted to be involved, Tracy Morgan, Leslie Jones, they didn't really come in and add a whole lot of value to the new movie. I think the one thing that was a kind of a turnoff for me was the cat that played his son. He's like a discount version of Kevin Hart or something. And he really I didn't like him when he had his TV show. I really wasn't a fan of him. And then to see him in this movie, he really didn't do much for me there either. And then as far as the script itself and comedies nowadays versus comedies back in the day when the first one came out, we have this argument with everything. Can today's football players, or could yesterday's football players play today? Are running backs the same? Are wide receivers from the 80s and 90s, can they compete with today's guys? Can 80s and 90s and 70s basketball players, could they play with the guys today? Do boxers today, could the 60s and 70s and 80s boxers, could they compete with we do this with everything. I was just talking about B.I.G and Jay-Z. Can the 80s and 90s rappers compete with these new dudes? I don't know. Honestly, I don't even have an opinion on none of that stuff no more. But honestly though, just looking at the storytelling, it really wasn't done as well. Sometimes you get a bunch of voices around, you get a big ensemble cast, you get everybody on the thing, and it just seems like they get together and everybody is just trying to one up the other, and you don't know if all of this stuff was really written down, talked through, a consensus was gained on what worked, what didn't work. I don't know. A lot of these movies, when you bring a bunch of comedians together, it tends to happen like that. And I think that's one thing that was missing, that you didn't see in the first movie, was you didn't have all of these different comedians coming in trying to create their big moment and having their impact on the script. You didn't have that in the first one. The only thing I would say that was disappointing to me, flat out, like disappointing, was the fact that the Soul Glow cat, I can't remember his name, Eric something, Eric LaSalle, he wasn't involved in the movie, so he didn't make an appearance. And I know he co-produces, executive produces some series or something on TV, on network television. So he's still in the game. Maybe for some reason he just didn't want to, reprise his role or something. I don't know. What else was I going to talk about? Snowfall. I would say watch the movie though. Watch the movie, enjoy it for what it was. Watch the movie and try to enjoy it. And if not, then move on, find something else. Oh, so what I did want to get to before Snowfall, the United States versus Billie Holiday. That's on. It's available on Hulu. You can get you a week free trial of Hulu if you want to watch this. And remember to unsubscribe before the end of that week, like I'm gonna do tomorrow. The movie was gritty. Billie Holiday is just like Chairman Fred Hampton, who we saw the story with the Black Messiah, Judas and the Black Messiah. Billie Holiday was like this name that we've been hearing for decades. We've heard that, what's her name? Erykah Badu and a couple others, maybe even Ari Lennox. We've heard that a couple of them were influenced by her, and there's a couple other female singers we've heard comparisons to Billie Holiday throughout the years. And so we didn't know the full story. And so this United States versus Billie Holiday goes into the fact that back in the day, she used to sing this song called Strange Fruit, and she mostly sang jazz music. But she used to sing this song called Strange Fruit. And again, our federal government servant, J. Edgar Hoover, head of the FBI, the director of the FBI, everything that he was doing back in the day, he was not a fan of this song because Strange Fruit was actually about the bodies of Black Americans during Jim Crow and coming out of Jim Crow, when Black people were being lynched to the tune of like 4,000 lynchings across the country. And somehow or another, Billie Holiday wrote this song about it and just described looking at these bodies hanging from these trees or light posts, lamp posts, whatever, however these people were lynched and burned often and mutilated and all of that type of stuff. She made this song about it. And J. Edgar Hoover did not want the song being performed because he didn't want people getting incited. So somebody in the organization, some cat named Anslinger, was kind of tasked, much like Mitchell, Special Agent Mitchell or whatever in Judas and the Black Messiah. This dude was tasked with getting rid of or silencing Billie Holiday. So they got involved in her finances, and then they also were aware of the fact that Billie Holiday was a heroin addict. And so they had a black agent. This brother was in, he played the lead character in Moonlight. At first I said it was Midnight when I talked about that movie on another video recently. It was Moonlight, not Midnight. I can't remember his name, but I thought he did had a hell of a performance in the movie. Andra Day played Billie Holiday in the movie. I thought she was pretty good. There's some resemblance. She's very fair skinned, so was Billie Holiday. She actually could sing in the manner that Billie Holiday sings in. But again, man, this is another one of these movies where the subject, the main character is such a damaged and abused person, and just has this unimaginable life that they lead. And I don't want to say it's easy to tap into that pain, but when all you're doing is just, not all, but when you just have to do, like, what's the worst existence that you can imagine, and then multiply that by 20 or 100, that's your role. That's what you have to do to pull this role off. And I think she did it. She was abused as a child. Her mother was a prostitute. She had her working in a brothel before she was 10 years old. She never she never had a real need for love. She didn't want that. She didn't look at men for love. Like I said, she was high, often on heroin, to deal with all of her demons and stuff, and the pressure from the FBI and whatnot. She actually had to go away for a year and do a prison sentence. And so, yeah, it's a couple of men that end up in her life throughout the movie. They just use her, either to have sex with her, or to make money off of her, or to and then they become very abusive of her. Just a crazy life, man. But I think what my problem with the movie itself was, while Lee Daniels captured all of the the manipulation and the harassment from the FBI, how Billie Holiday kind of came to be what she was, why she had all of these demons and issues, he didn't really tell us. But it wasn't a great story to all of it. And the manner that as the movie transitioned to different periods of Holiday's life, it really wasn't always clear in the movie what was going on, why this was going on, how this was going on. It just kind of kept going, and it was some poor execution here and there, in my opinion. Not a horrible movie. I would say check it out. Definitely learn, like I said, all of this stuff about Billie Holiday. The one thing that I would just say, that's interesting, because I see different discussions online. There's always issues with how the men were portrayed. The black men were portrayed or poorly portrayed. And like I said, I think there's 3 different individuals in the movie. 3 men. No, it's 4 men. I think it's 4 men that get involved with Billie Holiday. How do we think those men? How do we look at those men and how they treated this person? I'm gonna sit back and see if anybody really, comes to Billie Holiday's defense, or calls any of these brothers onto the carpet for being total pieces of shit, total dirtbags. So that's that. I would suggest checking it out. Like I said, you can get you a 1 week trial to Hulu to check that out. The United States versus Billie Holiday. It's a very long movie. And that's another thing. Last thing on that. For Strange Fruit, the song, to be such an integral part of the movie, Lee Daniels didn't even go back and explain or really give anything to why or how she wrote this, or when she wrote this, or the incident that inspired her to write this song. The other very odd thing was she was performing in front of a lot of white audiences, definitely segregated audiences, and they showed a lot of the white fans who wanted to hear this song performed. So that's just very crazy to me, that the song being what the song was about. Because I think even Anslinger, his wife, was a huge fan. He was the one that was assigned to take her out and take her down and silence her. But on the back side of it, his wife was a huge fan of Billie Holiday from what they showed in the movie. So it was, like I said, none of these things were really dealt with. They just kind of, you were shown it, then you were shown more, then you were shown more. Anyway, let me get on to, what was the last thing I was going to talk about? Oh, Snowfall. There was a period in time on Snowfall when I thought it was too much going on. It was too many different storylines going on. When the one Mexican girl, what was that? Gustavo's, she had the brother the brother ended up getting killed, but Gustavo was like her muscle. I can't remember her name at this point, but when they were doing that thing, the show was kind of hard to follow, and it was so much going on. And I think I'm kind of back there now with Snowfall. I don't know what the hell is, like, where is all of this going? The one thing that's very frustrating to me, and it's kind of tired, but I guess it happens more times than not, but to see Leon and Franklin, to watch that relationship continue to spiral out of control, and to pretty much go into the at some point it looks like it could be some gunplay involved. And Leon is just not strategic enough to fill the shoes of Franklin. But with Franklin being political and making the decisions that he's made, all in the effort to control everything in the area, and so he's picking his winners and losers. Leon is justified in not liking the way that Franklin has handled a lot of these decisions, the choices that he made. With what happened with Kevin, not retaliating when he thought it was necessary. He just doesn't have any interest. Leon just doesn't have any interest whatsoever in connecting all of the dots. And Franklin is like, violence is bad for business, and also he's trying to be responsible and not put his family, and people that he loves, because of who he's already lost. He's trying to be responsible about not putting certain people on the front lines, and asking them to take unreasonable risks and whatnot. So from that perspective, it's just like I said, it's getting a little tired to see that the number one and the number two always have to become so adversarial in these situations. but it's inevitable, I guess. Man-child, at the end of this fourth episode, man-child is trying to sow, the seeds of business was better. Everything was fun, was more fun when Franklin wasn't around. Don't y'all miss talking to Jerome and his wife? Don't y'all miss the autonomy and being in control and everything? Basically saying we could get rid of Franklin and do what we need to do, and not be all concerned with how we do what we do. Just do it 100. And Franklin isn't really on that. I'm getting ready to get on out of here. The one interesting thing, and I ran into this when I was listening to Jamel Hill talk about her show, recapping or rewatching The Wire. And she was going back and saying how a lot of stuff in The Wire, based on what we doing right now, what we're on right now, a lot of stuff in The Wire, in her opinion, was racist. And like we didn't say nothing about it back in 2005, 2006. And it kind of got irritating to me because, some of what she was talking about, I don't know, but it irked me a little bit. But one thing that I thought was a very small line in the big scheme of things. But this new brother that's come into the picture, I believe the actor's name is Steven Williams. He used to play on, he was like the lieutenant or whatever on 21 Jump Street. He was also, most recently, he was on The Chi in like season 2, I believe. So Franklin's mom, Sissy, goes to get that deal done, or ask him, because he's all in real estate, but he's big time commercial real estate and whatnot. So she goes to get a meeting with him to figure out how to pull off some bigger moves in the real estate game. And then Franklin ends up meeting with him because obviously Franklin can bring his money. He can bring this money to the table. And the dude is, he might need an infusion of cash after a bad move or two. So he tells Franklin, he said, our people, right? Like this is some real, we talk about racist stuff, stereotypical stuff, but he tells Franklin, he says something about, how our people are, sometimes you got to treat them like children, or sometimes you got to lead them like children. And that's just my thing, man. With a lot of this TV and music that we watch and listen to, when do some of these statements really resonate and hit home and cause some of us to think more about ourselves versus maybe this celebrity, this superstar, or whatever? When does some of this stuff really hit home, and and people start taking it personal, how the individual is being gamed with some of this stuff? But he said, he was asking them, well, why would they do that? Why would they sell it to me at that price? Or why would they give me 10% of this money? And the dude was like, yeah, well, you know how our people are. And these were two business owners in that bookstore. And he said something about sometimes you gotta take our people and lead them or treat them like 10-year-olds or something. He said that was a deep line. Lastly, we see Leon, his old girlfriend, him confront her. She was in bad shape last year. She was in bad shape last year. I didn't even think we were going to see her back. But now she runs, or Leon runs down on her in the middle of their project and whatnot. And she's arguing with somebody and getting ready to start something. And Leon pulls her to the side. Her teeth are all messed up. She actually pulls a tooth out of her mouth during this episode when she was out getting smoked out with two of her friends, two of her crackheads. And after she pulled out that, well, first she tells Leon, y'all got us bugging down here because y'all selling us this trash, this weak crack, this weak dope that y'all selling us. So y'all got people, it's crazy when you look at the quality side of selling dope. We saw this in The Wire, when you gotta dilute the product. We saw this in American Gangster. And so anyway, Leon this is becoming a major problem for Leon, that he doesn't have, and this is gonna be what makes him, I would imagine, come up with either he falls back in stride with Franklin, or he just goes to war with Franklin. But he needs good product. And so later in the again, this, when he has this discussion with her, it's making him, it reiterates the fact that he's not in a position of power, and he might have to, like I said, he has two decisions to make: either go to war with Franklin, or fall in line and do what Franklin wants to do, because he needs him as his plug, basically, to supply him drugs. But the thing that we get back later in the show is it comes back to the girlfriend after she pulls the tooth out of her mouth, and her friends laugh at her, and now she's having that moment where a lot of drug abusers, addicts, fiends, where they don't know, like, how am I living like this? How am I doing this to myself? And it'll be interesting to see what happens to her next. Does she go and get herself together? But what's even the possibility of her doing that? As far gone as she is with for lack of a better word, in her career as a crackhead, it's going to take an unbelievable, strength for her to help herself. It's probably, and living in that same environment, it's going to be impossible. But again, like I've had this discussion, when it comes to the economics in the hood and in the projects and in the, in that business, it's winners and losers. And I said this last year on the show when Mel was smoking crack. When it comes to revisit one of the dudes that's selling this stuff, how do they process that? This was somebody that you loved, that had a relationship with, or you have a deep connection with, and they fell victim to this, and this is taking over their life, and you're at the core of what's happened, their demise, basically. Anyway, that was kind of my entertainment talk for this week. B.I.G, rest in peace. Snowfall, the United States versus Billie Holiday, and then Coming to America, the sequel. Pay me no mind. Sports and entertainment. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Peace.